Hi, Wayne McAteer of the Graney Gang, with a commemorative surrounding a famous local man who played baseball for the Cleveland Indians. Known to the baseball world as Jack Graney, known in his hometown as Glad Graney. Competing elements for my time these last few months of post-production, aside from maxing out summer itself, which sets as quickly as Cleveland's chances, was following the Tribe on their run for the playoffs this year. They were slow with the bats early in the season and paid for it in the end. But they came close again and displayed a lot of magic in the process. One of the many records they set this year was Major League leader for walks, won by Carlos Santana. No Cleveland Indian has earned this feat since 1919, when it was accomplished by a guy over on Elgin Street. Glad Graney strolled more than Babe Ruth himself for the record. Graney is the only Indian in history to have led the majors twice in bases on balls because he also did it 2 seasons earlier. With numerous instances of valuable play, last we checked, Glad Graney was number 83 on the all-time list of greatest Cleveland Indians.
Well, I was born in St. Thomas, Canada, St. Thomas, Ontario, Canada, and played high school ball, and finally was signed up as I left school. I went to a team in the Interstate League, a team Fulton, New York. Then from Fulton, New York, I went to Erie, Pennsylvania, and played. From Erie, Pennsylvania, I went to Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. At that time, I was a pitcher. And in 1907, I was drafted by the Cleveland Indians and took my first trip south with the Cleveland Indians in 1908, the spring of 1908. I was leading off for Cleveland, and we were playing in Boston. Babe Ruth had been brought up. This was in July 1914. Brought up as a pitcher from the Eastern League. And they started Babe that day. I was the leadoff man for the Cleveland Indians, and I was the first one to face Babe when he first came into the American League.
Well, the veteran Jack Graney's all set. The Saturday afternoon encounter just getting underway. The one called Babe looks in, gets a sign. That's the manager, Bill Kerrigan, doing the catching today. Here's the wind and the pitch. Smacked! Up the middle!
First time up, I pinned his ears back with a line drive through the box. That's all I remember.
A bullet back at Ruth. Couldn't get his glove up. And Graney's aboard for the naps.
They tell me later that he had a sore arm, so I didn't take much credit for that line drive hit.
The Babe evened the score, I'm glad, when he assisted on nailing Graney at the plate later in the inning. The next at-bat that Glad didn't recall came in the 4th. Another single to center. This one booted by future teammate Tris Speaker, and Graney, with the play in front of him, took second. Then Glad Graney scored, without a throw, on a Shoeless Joe single. And that's how Babe Ruth coughed up his first earned run in the bigs. 100 years later, to the day, Glad's daughter Margot and granddaughter Perry, with her husband Ernie, approached Canada from their U.S. home. They arrived in Port Stanley, right across the lake from Cleveland, Ohio, and took the route from Port that Glad and Larry used to visit his parents and friends here in his hometown. Larry and Glad were best friends. Sometimes Larry needed a vacation from his role as Cleveland's mascot, and traveled alone across the lake on a steamer, then took a traction-lined car to St. Thomas, and hopped off and scampered to the Graney homestead at 38 Elgin.
Well, I remembered the train somewhat as a child because we would come by boat and take the train
And then
up to
take the
St.
train
Louis.
up
Sure,
to St.
yeah.
Thomas, yeah. So it's actually running again on the weekends.
Really?
It's
I saw the dinner on the train, something about it.
yeah,
Dinner
it's
on the
a
train.
group of, I would say, railroad appendictos. These guys love the train, and so they've pooled their money together, and they've got the train running as a not-for-profit group. So,
Neat looking cars too.
So Ernie bought me a Perry's cap and just took a picture with them.
Was that an ice cream named after you then?
I
Perry?
think so, yes.
Perry's ice cream.
Perry's ice cream.
The equivalent of Shaw's.
And their slogan is "Life is just a bowl of Perry's."
You gotta love it.
This is about a 7-year-old museum in this location.
Ernie, you know the
Yeah.
story on Jumbo, the elephant.
I don't.
You don't? Well, tell them the story. You know, you talk about she was so beautiful, and maybe she was. I was never beautiful, but they used to say, oh, you look like Dorothy Graney.
well, maybe you just didn't. It's the critical when you look in the mirror at
I
yourself, right?
I can see a little resemblance
So
when
there
I was
was-
young. I never met her.
Could
Margo, wasn't the flu
but
epidemic?
No, I don't think it
was-
is. There were 5 girls. And
One of them died in 1918, though.
There were 5 girls and 4 brothers. And 3 of the girls and probably their mom died of tuberculosis.
We had dinner together last night.
But we've only seen pictures of them when they were young, so we haven't seen them at this age. And and so she took the lifetime pass. And they valued it at
$700.
$700.
But I don't know why I didn't take the World Series rings. I never thought about it. Of course, it was in Florida, and I was up north.
You were just
and I didn't
visiting
bring them.
Florida at the time.
That's the Talbotville ball team in 1906, and they won the city championship. And the fellow in the left side of the middle row is the first cousin of my mother, and the fellow right in front of him is his brother.
And there were.
Yeah, I kind of remember.
And in your,
They must have.
What are we looking at?
the Perry family.
This was his
I wonder
grandfather's
if a
uniform
Jack-
and a picture of his grandfather playing for St. Thomas.
Yeah.
Coulter.
I do
And he
remember
was the
that,
pallbearer.
but I don't.
Yes.
grandfather's
S.O.
funeral.
S.O. Perry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gosh, it's
Today.
not so.
1911, so he could have put National League ball player, just ball
She's
player.
right up there.
Very good.
She's a little shy, that's all. You.
Not Rogers Hornsby.
No, it's
It's
red.
Rex Hornsby.
Red.
If you had a Rogers Hornsby ball,
I had a Lefty Grove ball, and I sold it for $75.
My dad was already
Yes, I was. Bob put together a nice collection around that time. Yeah, we're lucky that
Well, I think 1906 was when he was first, right?
Oh, yeah, well, they used to, all the young people came to the pavilion to dance. I think that's where my mother and dad met. Mom said, you know, the Lombardos would come from London.
Yes.
And she said, we never liked them. I said, oh, it's going to be the Lombardo. That was before they got popular.
Yeah, that was a popular spot for generations.
Oh, yes, I should say.
Atlantic Park
And
on,
Glad played for him in his younger days.
we can go through the original Graney house.
And I want to see the Perry house, too.
And the Perry house too.
Oh, yeah.
Last time I was here years ago, I couldn't find it.
Oh, okay, nope, we're gonna see
Are you
that.
ready to look at these, Ray?
Is that a World Series ring?
1920.
It is.
That was Glad's 1920.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you the first of my stories.
Okay.
Glad used to always stay at Hillcrest Inn when he came over for the
Yeah,
summer.
she used to
I
drive
stayed
him
there too with
Is
them.
that right? A friend of mine, Ron Clark, I worked with him in the railroad office, accounting department. He bought a boat and he's staying down at Hillcrest. He said, you come down and I'll take you for a ride in the boat. So I went down there. Now in those days, the suites did not have a number on them.
Yeah.
You just sort of got to get in the right floor to view the boat, right? I said, I don't know exactly which one it is. But not in this door. Who came to the door but Glad?
That's fine.
So I told him what it was about, he sort of laughed and
I think everybody wants a coffee.
It was very nice. So I actually met him.
And then tea.
Really good, because a
Want
lot of
tea?
them
Want
guys
tea? Have tea.
had never met him.
She'll have tea.
Right. But I actually met him.
And
I don't
tea?
remember
What
those
about
things
Don?
when we were young.
Dawn will have
Very
a
nice
coffee as
man.
well. Okay, so
He's
6.
coming.
Don met him. Okay, and they're about right.
Yeah.
The rest of them.
What was I going to ask you?
No, that's his first.
That's the first
Where's
one.
the second one?
That was
Right
close.
here.
Sorry.
This is 48 when it was broadcasting. And we decided the diamond goes at the top, right? Isn't that correct?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
the writing beneath.
The writing goes with
The writing is beneath the
I
diamond.
don't think I've even looked that closely at that.
Well, you need a magnifying glass because
I should have brought Coco's
Coco
Loop.
has her loop.
Yeah.
She was looking at it like that last night.
Oh,
I'll bet
Oh, I
you
know.
that, I listen to more ball games glad broadcast than
you could get them
How
across
is
the
it?
lake, couldn't you? Yeah, I knew it at the same time.
How you get it?
I didn't know that.
Jimmy doesn't.
These two gentlemen brought red.
Okay, now is he gonna
No.
continue on with us?
No, because he was,
I don't know if he's going to do
somebody
that.
said about him, not
Yeah,
he'd step on his grandmother to get up.
because he probably wants to see the houses
And he
anyway.
wants to go to Holy Angels with us.
Yeah,
Looking after himself.
Yeah, right. Well, he came to Cleveland with the idea he was going to be a disc jockey.
Yeah, well,
And
he didn't.
Well, he had never even broadcast before, I think, or not baseball. But he had that in mind. He was going to broadcast.
Yeah. I got one of the stories I want to tell you about Glad. I was listening to a ball game one day. Remember Jim Hegan?
Oh,
Caught
yeah.
with the-
Remember the name, yeah.
So this is Glad calling a shot. Says, hi, pop up at home plate. He says, you know, Jim Hegan's deadly under oath. He never misses him. He'll get it. And there's sort of a pause. Glad says, and he dropped it. Geez, I laughed. You know,
Whoops.
just one of those things, eh? But I got a few other stories to tell you. I think you'll enjoy it.
And Baseball Hall of Fame, Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame.
Ooh, that's a beauty. Don't ever let those out of your possession.
They stay in the bank vault when they're home. My granddad, I remember him telling us that, of course, he knew Lou Gehrig, and he said we knew something was wrong with him. We just didn't know what it was because every time that we would see him play, he seemed to be weaker and weaker, and nobody knew exactly what was wrong. So.
And
They were aware.
She was, I saw pictures of her.
well, that's a great story. I didn't know that.
Very pretty.
yeah, very pretty looking girl.
Jack knew Lou
I
Gehrig.
said,
Jack knew Lou
I
Gehrig.
can't really say she's very
Well, they didn't know what was wrong and why he would keep getting. I'm sure they maybe it wasn't. Who knows if that illness was even diagnosed at that time.
Yeah, I don't think it was because I think that they studied this really affects on him, right? Because it's when you, I think it's like you suffocate more than anything.
Right. Yeah. All the systems stop work. School librarian. And so the first year I started in my school, the kids came in and they had to check out biographies. And so I'm walking around trying to help them find something, and the boys are not too interested, so they said, well, here's some sports people. So one boy is talking to his friend, and he says, he pulls out this book, and he said, you should read this one. He says, it's Lou Gehrig. He said, he died of Lou Gehrig's disease. What are the chances of that?
like they witched them. And he said there's nobody there.
What is
So we never did know why they were buried. We never did find them.
Oh, John, that's one for the book.
Yeah.
Douglas Room?
38.
Douglas. D-I-D-I-T.
Well, it's been there for a long time, just got the old tub.
I don't know where your father's bedroom was.
I don't know, but I won't check that. I will find Sarah's.
Hi, I'm Dennis Broom.
Hi, I was Rainey.
Hi, Alice.
Hi
Dad
there.
grew up here.
Harry Smith, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Granddaughter.
They're original.
I think so. Oh, I think so. You got all that. And we haven't got the church.
Right.
Sure.
Take your time. How many Greenies live?
9.
9.
Plus the parents. They stacked four to go bed. And if they got cold, they throw another.
In the kitchen area. And Glad Granny's
My grandmother
childhood home.
meals in here with 9 children in the family. And I'm not sure they were all here at the same time.
Well, she never remembered this house because her grandparents were already gone when she was born. So she never got to see this house. But we would drive by it when I would come to town with my grandparents, and they'd point it out and say, this is where the family lives.
It's lovely. It's lovely to see this.
You think you could raise 9 children?
Yeah, all this cove work and everything would be all original.
You know, that's kind of similar to William's funeral home.
Yeah, yeah. I'm surprised it's in here and not in that room.
You're
You're welcome.
Dennis.
They called you and you said
No, I don't. No.
So I don't know where you got that.
Red
I just wanted a copy.
Yeah. No, I don't. No. I mean, most of the pictures I've got came from my mother.
Your mother was
Mary Ann.
Yeah.
It's right here on the other side of Talbot Street.
Okay.
On that side of
Wasn't it right up in this
those
block here?
fairs.
I know they weren't here in my day.
They weren't. No.
You missed a lot.
Wonderful candy. I think my grandmother liked the humbug.
They're very partial to this yellow brick.
The windows.
Perry's were good friends.
I would.
It's a big-
I think
it's a
they
big-
curled
it's a big
together.
windows, yeah.
Well, it could be, and I think they were,
Beautiful.
if there is such a thing, they were society people of St.
Yes, they
Thomas.
were.
This
They were.
house right here on this side
Yeah,
is Ray's
Yeah,
house.
yeah. My mom talks about the Camerons.
And his
Used to.
father-in-law, McLean, was a lawyer.
Uh-huh.
And Cameron's son was a lawyer.
Uh-huh.
And his son was a lawyer.
Oh boy.
No, it's the end of it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ran in families.
Yes, it did, yeah. Okay.
Okay,
We'll see at the case home.
okay.
Okay. I'll point out the church and the
Yes,
school
boss.
where you went to school, but it's not the same building.
Uh-huh.
But
I won't recognize.
Yeah, look at the old door.
Isn't that
It's
funny?
original.
When I said the Camerons, I just snatched that name out of my
I
memory.
was going, where'd that come
I
from?
never knew them. I never knew them. I just remember my mother talking about when I was a girl, the Camerons this, and we did this together.
This corner.
Right here. Yeah.
That corner. And her uncle either ran the
Who was
hotel
your
or
friend, Perry?
Elizabeth. I thought her last name was Coffee. Now Don says it was Johnson, but I had.
I remembered you had a friend here.
Yeah.
The queso station was put into Millersburg. So St. Thomas solved their problem. They annexed
They took in
Millersburg.
Millersburg. Smart. Yeah.
So, but it left a big gaping hole between the two. So City Hall was built smack dab in the middle.
As we
of
chatted,
St. Thomas.
taking the path Glad made to and fro, the thought struck me, the ornate brickwork and arches, the designs and textures of his surroundings must have made him feel right at home in Cleveland as you look at a League Park wall. And you'd think you were looking at our Casso historic railway station, as we are now. It was a big day here in 1910 when 5,000 St. Thomasites gathered to welcome Glad home after his first season as a major leaguer. When a train pulls up to Casso, MCR as it was known then, you can see the passenger entrance where Glad disembarked from Cleveland. Approaching the same entranceway from the other side, where the townsfolk crowded to greet Glad, the Grainies, Margot and Perry, entered the station, escorted by members of the Graney gang.
She's tracing the same roots that we are.
That was Dennis Brew and his wife were big real estate people in town, and his mom and dad bought that house.
we were just there.
It's the same house or just the same?
Oh, it's the same house.
The same house. Wow.
And they were nice enough to allow us to
Yeah, we went out through.
And we went across, well, we lived right across the street, almost right across the street. And I didn't realize what Don told me. I thought, wow, history.
History, yeah.
Well, welcome to St. Thomas.
Thank you very much.
Dennis Telechuk. The local painter, he has his own studio in his own home, and he painted he did eight or nine portraits of folks from St. Thomas who, became famous.
That's almost from his baseball card.
It is, well, that's number 2.
But when I saw the photo, because my grandson's a Cleveland fan, and I was interested, but when Don told me that it was right across from where I lived. That made it amazing. Yeah, we just sold it last year. Yeah. Well, so you got a chance to see the house. That's great.
Yeah, they let us go in. So.
We were out at the museum, and we had a tour up there of the baseball collection, and we went to the cemeteries and the house, and
Beautiful.
or Scott Street as well, where Stephen McAteer was.
So that's the painting.
Really great.
Maybe if I talked to him that nice, maybe he would let us give that to you at some point. I'll have to. I'll give him. I'll talk to him and see if he would mind this.
Or they might like to have it in the museum. Mm-hmm. And might like to have it in the museum.
The Greenies were kept in the dark and surprised when excitement was in the air as they stepped off the elevator. Margot and Perry found themselves being welcomed to the Wall of Fame ceremony on the second floor of Timken Center.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, dignitaries, and special guests. My name is Lori Baldwin-Sands. I'm an alderman with the City of St. Thomas and also a member of the Wall of Fame Committee. At this time, I would like to introduce Mayor Heather Jackson as she brings greetings from the City of St. Thomas. Mayor Jackson.
It is a pleasure to be here. It's great to see such a great turnout here to make this special day even more special for the family that was able to travel to be here. Thank you for taking the time to be here. And to those that have put all of the time and effort, as we affectionately call them, the Greenie Gang, as you have worked so tirelessly to put the information together and make sure that we have all of the accurate information to do this and to do it in style and to do it right and to do it proudly for him and to recognize him for the achievements he had. The displays that are here today are absolutely fantastic, and unless you make a trip to the Baseball Hall of Fame, there's a lot of stuff here you wouldn't normally see. So thank you for everyone involved in making this such a wonderful afternoon.
There was a lot of interest last week because it was the 100th anniversary of Babe Ruth's debut, and the first batter that Babe Ruth faced, of course, was Jack Greenie. But 100 years ago today, the Red Sox and the Indians were still playing, and 100 years ago today, the Red Sox beat the Indians 2-1. Jack Greenie went 1 for 3 with 1 RBI and 1 walk. So that was 100 years ago today. John Gladstone Glad Greenie was born on June the 10th, 1886 in St. Thomas, Ontario. One of 9 children to James and Eliza Greenie. He spent his early years here in St. Thomas and got involved in what we would call too as sandlot baseball, or involved as well in the City League. We're not exactly sure what that team is. It could very well be the St. Thomas Saints, who Greenie at the age of 19 joined. The St. Thomas Saints were a part of the Canadian League. They were a Class D team, and hence he was a professional. So at the age of 19, Jack Greenie became a professional ball player. Eventually his rights were sold to the Cleveland Indians. In 1912, Jack Greenie became the recipient of a bull terrier named Larry. Larry was named after Larry Lapp LaJoy, who was the owner of the Cleveland Indians. And this dog was adopted as the mascot and served as the Cleveland mascot until 1917. And just as a little FYI, the author of this book, Barbara Gregorovich, is going to be here in St. Thomas on August the 10th at 3 o'clock at the Knights of Columbus. So if you'd like to learn a little more, come on over. John Gladstone Glad Greenie became the first player of the modern era to walk onto a field wearing a uniform number. The 1920 season was the last season where the World Series was played. It was a 9-game championship. And in that game, as I say, it was 5-2. It was also, Greenie was involved in that game, but I think one of the interesting things that day was the fact that a triple play was unassisted and turned by Cleveland's Bill Wambagos in Game 5. Wambagos playing second base, caught a line drive off the bat of Clarence Mitchell. stepped on second base to put out Pete Cutta, and then tagged Otto Miller coming from first. It was the second of 15 unassisted triple plays in Major League Baseball history, and remains the only one in postseason play. Margot had the opportunity to be there that day to throw out one of the opening pitches, and it's so great to have Jim Fanning here today because Jim spent a lot of his career with the Montreal Expos. We're not sure if Jim was on the field that day. He did end up taking over as manager that year, but Margot Mudd threw out the opening pitch, and Jim Fanning was there on that day. I still have a number of pieces of correspondence in my files that I maintained over the years, and I'm sure she's smiling down from above today at this recognition, because it was when we opened the baseball complex in 1994 that Graney Lane was established there. So there's a quick overview of the illustrious career of John Gladstone Glad Graney, or 3-2 Jack, and with that I'd like to call on Scott McFarland to say a few words on behalf of the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me here today. Congratulations to the Grady family. It's great to meet you today. And they're going to come up with the Hall of Fame tomorrow, so it'll be a fantastic day to have them on the Hall of Fame grounds tomorrow at the 30-acre site. And it'll be great to see you up there. Jack Grady, one of our greatest inductees, he was inducted in 1984, that was mentioned. It was our second year that we inducted people into the Hall of Fame. And he still holds top 10, all kinds of records. We give out the Lifetime Media Award called the Jack Grady Media Award, and that trophy's on display here today.
Glad's daughter is Margot Graney Mudd for the official unveiling.
Carrie, do you want to go with that?
Thank you all.
I want to thank the Graney gang. We never felt like celebrities before. We didn't realize that people were so interested in her father, my grandfather. And so it just touches our heart that you've come out for us, for him today. It's very special for us. We'll never forget this day. Thank you all.
Thank you, Margot. Thank you, Carrie, for joining us today. And if I can just get you to come back up for a second, on behalf of the grateful community. Oh, lovely. I would like to thank you all for joining us this afternoon and being a part of this very special event. Please feel free to have photos taken, catch up with some old friends, talk about past stories, and enjoy the snacks and refreshments. Please have a great day and drive safe. Thank you all so very much for coming.
Way to go, Bill. This wouldn't happen without you. You made it happen. All of it.
Imagine mom's happy.
Oh, your mom would be ecstatic. Yeah, your mom would be just ecstatic.
I think they're both here. Yeah. I wonder who had all these right? Yeah, right now.
Okay, great. Well, Bill's been collecting for a long time.
I never saw that picture before.
No?
That one over there?
See, that's the one I was talking about. What's it say?
I can't read it.
Rosenblum.
It does say Rosenblum.
Yeah.
He was coaching.
Beautiful picture of him.
Yeah. Now this one was broadcast before the accident.
Yep. And I think the accident must have been about 41.
No, it was before that. I was just a little kid when I graduated from college at 43.
Now, there we are.
Oh, yeah.
There's Jim Fanning, for crying out loud. Well,
hi, everybody.
Yeah, just really appreciated you as a manager, and I love the expos.
Thank you very much.
And I know you had Margot throw out the ball to Gary Carter and that. And just
She
that
threw
you-
a strike,
Gary
too.
Carter. Yeah, she threw a strike.
Yeah.
You want to sign her up?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, long live the expos.
Yep.
You know, my Indians, no offense, but a long-time Tribe fan, and that they would have played Montreal in the year of the strike, I
That's
believe.
right, yeah.
I believe you would have been there, and the Tribe would have been there.
Yeah, it would have been something.
I bought them my first big screen TV for that when you went on the strike.
Oh, man. Still got it, though, right?
Maybe this is the year of the Tribe.
Yeah. Hope so.
Well, nice to meet you.
I have a great friend, Terry Francona.
Oh, yeah.
And I signed him years ago, so I'm
Lovely
going for
manager. I remember seeing his father playing too.
Yeah, Tito.
Yeah. Well, they're both Tito's now.
Yeah, right.
They dropped the Terry and he's
Yeah.
Tito. Get a kick out of that.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
Yes, sir. That was good.
The baseball card you've often thought. I got some that go back to the 30s. That's a long time. And I never saw them anyways, but they're worth a lot. But you gotta wonder, where has that card been? Who kept it so well? You know, a lot of us. Even here.
Yeah.
Like if you're a really baseball fan. People, like, as a kid, I didn't think
You treat it.
On a visit to Cleveland's historic yard with my daughter Amberly in 2013, we were greeted by the last wall of League Park still standing, happy to see some preservation and reconstruction. A blue jay alongside the first baseline. The wall still joined to the ticket house and right. Home of the National League Spiders in 1891, then home to the American Leaguers known consecutively as the Blues, the Broncos, the Naps, and the Cleveland Indians, playing here through 1946. 100 years late to a ball game and they lock you out. It's not fair. It's not right. Everybody long gone. The park had a tough outfield to play. The right field wall stood 3 feet higher than Boston's Green Monster and was a whole lot quirkier. Made of steel posts, chain link, and wire, the ball could go anywhere bouncing off this fence. It was built to protect properties on Lexington before Ruthian shots could be imagined. Babe's 500th sailed over this fence. Looking in from left field over my shoulder, the first baseline looks like a distant city. A whole lot of real estate. Glad grainy territory ranging from 385 in left to 505 feet in left center. Zooming through the fence, you see Glad's view. He was happy for the electrifying center fielders playing beside him for some of his career. 2 of the greats of all time played beside Graney, the lightning-quick, legendary Joe Jackson, and the Hall of Famer Tris Speaker.
Well, I've seen Tris. Well, of course, at that time, it was the dead ball. You didn't have the lively ball as you have today, or Tris wouldn't have played in so close. But the ball in those days, when you'd hit it, it sounded like a coconut. There was no life to it. But he would play right in back to second base, and I've often seen him where he would run in where a fella taking a big lead off second. He'd run in towards second base looking for a throw from the pitcher, see if he couldn't catch him off there. You could hit a ball over his head. He'd turn his back and race back, and he'd grab that ball no matter how far out of it. He was a great outfielder, a great ball player, and the Gray Eagle, Tris Speaker.
Amberly looking on to where the Indians won the 1920 World Series. Here's Steve O'Neill, the Tribe catcher, caught up between second and third in Game 7. A bunt to the Dodgers pitcher, Burley Grimes, and the leadoff double was squandered. When they grandfathered out spitballers, Grimes was last to go. The Tribe would weather a lot of wet ones in this series, but they hung in to beat Grimes in both games he started, including this deciding game here at Dunn Field, as League Park was known for a while. Absolute euphoria on this spot. It was great being here for both of us.
Dad, put the camera down. Throw me the ball.
It was fun at the old ballpark. They say if you build it, they will come. The fans believed it, and here they come to watch their American League club, the Cleveland Naps, at a game here in 1905. They increased the capacity of League Park for the 1910 season with a new grandstand and replaced all the wood with brick and steel and concrete. Glad Graney played his first full season here when it reopened.
Joe was coming up for his last time, hadn't had a hit in the ball game, and he hit a terrific smash, hot ground ball down the third baseline, right over the bag, and Kenny Keltner went over, made a marvelous stop of the ball, and threw him out. Mike Garcia, right-hander, and Mike stepped on the rubber, looked in and got his signal. Jim Hegan was down giving the signal, and Mike starts his windup. Here's the pitch. And it's a drive high toward right field. That ball is going out of here. It's in the stand for a home run. And the fans stood up and cheered for 5 minutes. I had to stop announcing. I couldn't hear myself talk. I didn't know what I was saying. And they cheered, stood up and cheered for so long that another batter was up and retired before I could say anything. Halehouse stepped on the rubber, came up to pitching position. Here's the pitch. And it's a drive going out to deep left field. Williams backing up, going to play it off the wall. And it's over in the netting, over the fence for a home run. And the score is now Cleveland 4 and Boston 1.
And it was on to the 48 World Series. Glad and partner Jimmy Dudley calling the action. The Tribe's second World Series championship. The only two the Indians have ever won. Only one man earned both Cleveland rings, an old neighbor of the McAteers on Elgin, and I'm holding them. This is something special. The Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame ring. Glad's 1920 championship ring. The 1948 World Series ring the team awarded him for his play-by-play. Meet Jack Wendell Olson, Glad Graney's newest great-great-grandson, with happy grandparents Perry and Ernie. And this is Zachary Smith, another great-great-grandson, having fun, just like Glad Graney.
Do it again. I'm good then.
Okay.
That's at me.
Right.
Yeah,
Nice.
good contact. Good bunt.
Ready?
Yeah.
Oh, a little bit too early.
Did you see what I saw? Look at this kid's instincts. Good hand-eye. Keeps his eye on the ball. Glued to the ball. That's pretty good. Seems to have a good feel in the batter's box. Digging in. Bats left, throws left, even steps into one like his great-great-grandfather. Down the line.
always come up with these one-liners that he probably used 1,000 times while he was broadcasting. Talking about going to school, he'd say, yeah, I remember going to school. I'd take one step forward and 2 steps back, and the only way I could get to school was walk backwards. Stuff like that. He would keep on, it would just come, Here she is. We're still talking about your grandfather.
Oh, I thought maybe you wanted to go sleep a little.
Well,
take a nap.
I think he does, and I was just keep writing him for stories.
No, I don't care.
Okay.
I'm fine.
All right.
But I was saying that one of the recollections I have of him more than anything is that, we never had a serious discussion about anything, but he had these one-liners and two-liners that he would come up with all the time.
Oh, well, he used to do a lot of public speaking, in the off-season. Evidently, my mom said he was very much in demand as a speaker for organizations and things. So.
Well, I remember going over to their house and he was inevitably on the phone with some sports show and talking. They would ask him, he would be the sports show for the day, and he'd be on for hours, and then there'd be another call come in, and they'd talk to him.
Let's go, Elgin!
Let's know Edwin.
Gotta get something going here, boys. Let's go, Blue! Oh, buddy! What is he swinging at? Oh, Dad, come on!
Now stepping in, the designated hitter, Adam Lynn.
Graney was impressive on skates, too. A hockey star in his youth here. He went on to bring some big games to St. Thomas. After baseball, he did more radio, calling Cleveland Barons games of the American Hockey League, and he helped set up exhibition games here at Memorial Arena in the 50s and 60s between the AHL and the NHL. I remember seeing one in 1960 with the Canadians here on the rink where I was playing minor hockey. Toe Blake, Jean Beliveau, Boom Boom Geoffrion, the Pocket Rocket, Henri Richard, Jacques Plante, Dickie Moore, Doug Harvey, all in front of my eyes. It was unbelievable. With thanks to Glad Graney. Jack Graney's middle name was Gladstone, but it seems the handle Glad may have derived to a degree from his demeanor. He was happy to be a big leaguer. He enjoyed his dog Larry. He was grateful for family, and he was just plain glad to help out. My favorite story about him has nothing to do with baseball. The Daily Times in 1912 reported that a couple downtown found themselves in a runaway horse and buggy after the animal was spooked by a passing streetcar and broke the bit on its bridle. It galloped down the sidewalk on Talbot before the rig collided with an auto and was badly damaged. At this point, Glad Graney jumped on the furious horse and brought it under control despite 2 barking bulldogs at the corner of Elgin. The occupants spilled into the street with only minor injuries, thanks to Glad Graney. Another horse Graney rode without a saddle was in a spring training exhibition game with Tulane University. Emphasis on exhibition. With Cleveland's George Ewell on the hill, the university kids couldn't touch the ball. Glad took control and got his fellow outfielders along with the third baseman, the second baseman, and the shortstop to lay down. Still bored, he hopped bareback on the old horse that was used to pull the lawnmower and rode it around the outfield. Glad Graney seemed to always have his hometown in mind. In an article, he mentioned the guys here in town at the time of his tryout with the big club. Said he wanted to give the boys in St. Thomas something to talk about as he pitched to the great Cleveland Hall of Famer Nap Lajoie. So he thought he'd strike him out. Instead, he beamed Lajoie, and the player-manager told Graney to pack his stuff. He wasn't kidding. Graney made the club a few years later as the left fielder. People still talk about Graney's number of firsts in the big leagues. Yet his most meaningful stats are really impressive, leading the American League with Tris Speaker in doubles one season with 41. With Graney leading off and Speaker batting in the 3-hole. No wonder Glad was second only to Ty Cobb in runs scored that year. Also in 1916, he was the Cleveland co-leader in homers with 5, and could always steal the club a bag, 148 lifetime swipes. Then there was his defense. Graney had above-average range, a fireballing arm. He did a lot of things right in that Sunfield. He fielded .970 3 times with an overall .953. In spring training, Georgia, 1914, with Joe Jackson at the wheel of his 1912 Chevrolet, Larry's standing on the back of the front seat. You can see Glad sharing a laugh with Jackson. My guess is Glad's calling for the catch in case Larry loses his balance. Did he ever go anywhere without Larry? Hey, Glad. Nicely done.